All right, welcome to the book club interview. My name is Scott Hollister, your host, where we interview authors on business, real estate, and life. Today's guest is Luke Weber, who has been involved in thousands of real estate transactions over the last 15 years. He is actively investing in real estate across the country and has taught and coached thousands of investors. His book, The Flipping Blueprint, is full of tips, tricks, formulas, and secrets that he uses in his business and in the current market. These are not outdated principles or false promises. With an emphasis on safe investing for higher returns, Luke has used his real estate appraisal knowledge as the backdrop for delivering information that can change your life. Welcome to the show, Luke. How are you doing today?
Good, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on. Yeah, no, we just connected over Facebook and we were just talking about, our network that is growing and learning from each other. So really appreciate it. And I love seeing success of, other investors and giving back through education and writing a book. So thank you for that.
Yeah. It's having that abundance mentality. We're not all fighting against each other. There's plenty out there for everyone.
Well said. And I think that was the biggest mind shift when I went from, being a full-time teacher to investor. It was, you got to get the deals. There's only so many out there, but you start listening, and that's the power of all the education and technology out there. Is most investors that are successful have that mindset that you talk about. Was there a shift in your real estate career where you went from more of an abundance mindset?
I don't think it was necessarily my real estate career. I think it was just a full life shift where you realize that you decide what you want to do and what you want to be and how you want to feel. And when you start making those decisions, it all resonates throughout what you do, whether it's, playing a pickup game of basketball or something, or flipping houses or wholesaling or just interacting with people at Starbucks. You get to choose what you want to do, and good things happen when you're a good person.
Well said. So you've written the blueprint. So let's start at the beginning with a little bit of your background and what led you to write the book.
Yeah, so going way back, I got into real estate in 2001 as a real estate appraiser. So that was my experience on that side of things. And you don't have to go get a license to get into this business. For the audience who's listening and or trying to figure out how to get in, you don't have to do it. But fast forwarding through the next few years, I didn't realize that there was all the knowledge base that's out there nowadays. I mean, that was early 2000s, and I was just learning on my own, flipping a house here and there, buying a rental here and there, and building a little portfolio and doing things the way traditionally you did them. Then getting into 2010, I stopped buying for a few years when the market crashed and got back in 2010. And the market definitely shifted, and I started learning and going out and educating myself. And I went out and I paid tens of thousands of dollars, well over $100,000 for education, because I knew that one little thing that I can pick up, I'm going to repeat it 100 times over and make my money back tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold, whatever it is. So I kept going to these education events, and I soon saw this growing theme where these education events are just sales events. And people aren't getting information that is, number one, usable in today's market, or even usable at all to a new person beginning. And I thought, how can I really help people from plunking down $50,000 for education that they're not going to use? It's like, if you can't start taking action from what you can learn in my book, and there's tons of other great resources out there, but I want to give people something that I thought, hey, use this, and if you can't start doing something and seeing results off of this, you shouldn't pay the $50,000 for that.
Yeah, that's a better compliment. Yeah, no, I think that's a knowledgeable approach, because especially I think you talked about it going to your seminar, is especially the $40,000 one, where you started looking around and you were wondering how people could afford it, and people maxing out their credit cards, and that's a tough pill to swallow, because
it's sad.
Yeah, you want people to be successful and start in the green, not necessarily just pay for the guru. So It's a respectful approach.
Yeah. Now, there's nothing wrong with paying for education, getting mentors and things like that.
Yep.
But the majority of people that go to any of those type of events, whether it's real estate, Forex, vitamins, multi-level marketing, whatever it is, 96% of those people do absolutely nothing with it, no matter how much they paid, whether it was $100 or $100,000. It's a crazy stat.
That
So my
is.
goal is to change that.
I like it. It's a good goal. Now, how crucial was becoming an appraiser for your flipping success? So that you mentioned that you got your appraiser's license, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Okay. So how was that process to get that?
It was a lot different back in '01 than it is now. It's definitely a lot harder, and there's a lot more restrictions. When the market crashed in '06 to 2010, depending on what stats you follow, the realtors had a lobby, the mortgage bankers had a lobby. The appraisers really didn't have a lobby, and they took a lot of the heat for what happened. Now, in some cases, it was rightly so. There was a lot of bad guys out there doing a lot of bad things, but there's a lot of that in all the industries. Mm-hmm. But for me personally, it really gave me the background and the education to understand valuation and knowing what a property is going to be worth after I fix it up, that after repair value. That's so key in this business. Really knowing that is my starting point whenever I'm looking at a deal. So I'm able to take a look and see what's selling, what's been sold, what's available, and then going back through and estimating out my repairs and my closing costs and the profit that I want to make. And it's all really based on being able to get that number. But again, you don't have to get a license to do it. You just have to understand valuation concepts. And I try to put them into the book as well as I could in writing, but it's definitely one of those things that takes time and reviewing more deals to get a real good hang of it.
I thought you did a wonderful job in the book of really explaining that and getting that approach. But like you said, books give you that knowledge, but again, you have to apply it, and it's refining and applying those skills where you become an expert in your local market.
Yeah.
So, but it was clearly written. As an educator, I think that a teacher is only as good as how well they could take a complex thing and explain it in simple terms. And I thought you did a wonderful job with that.
Thanks. I still haven't done an audio version of it because there are a lot of numbers in there, and not numbers that will scare you, but just for looking at it. I've always been I want to hold the book. I'm the paperback guy, or hardcover. I want to have it in my hand so I can make my notes, dog ear the pages, and that's how I operate. I know other people are big on audibles, but we'll see. One day I might still put that out there.
Yeah, no, I think, and I'm the same way. I'm old school. I like that physical feel of the book, and I like the podcast for commuting to work back in the day. That's because they're short, and typically audiobooks are 8 to 10 hours. Yep. I feel like my mind's just wandering at that point, and it's tough. But and that's the thing about education. It's right. It's finding what works for you and having those different, if you're auditory or visual, it's good to have options.
Yeah.
I love in the beginning of the book, this is something I haven't seen. And you talk about finding out who you are first as an investor and a business person. So why is it important to create our real estate story?
Yeah. It's from going to all these different events and talking with people and even hosting my own events. I found like this was one of those things that everybody was missing. A lot of people say, hey, fake it till you make it kind of thing, right? But if you're just faking it, you don't believe it and you're not selling yourself right. And you're losing out on those conversations that could be that next private investor for you, or the wholesaler who's going to send you that perfect deal, or the seller who's going to sign your contract, because you're just not able to really pitch yourself because you don't believe it yourself. We all have a real estate story, and it can be as simple as, I moved around as a kid. I lived in 3 different houses. Oh, so you've been in 3 different houses. Were they in different cities? Yeah, they were in 3 different cities. Okay, so you've been active in real estate in 3 different cities. Oh, well, when you put it like that, it sounds a little better than, hey, I'm a noob.
Right? Yeah.
I
Another
mean,
great
that's just a real
conversation
simple
starter.
breakdown on it, but it's how you phrase things and really then building the belief within yourself of, what, I do have experience.
No, no, it's amazing. I think and like you said, starting that conversation, because you don't know who you're going to talk to next, and that's valuable advice. And I love how you started with that. Is a great point, because you got to know your why, you got to know who you are, and once you have that and that confidence, and don't fake it. I mean, you might have to fake that confidence, that last little piece, but if you're real to who you are, it'll go a long way.
Yeah, I'm not saying don't fluff and tweak things a little.
Yeah.
When they're built on truth,
Mm.
it's so much better for you when you're delivering and you can stand by things and just really pitch yourself. We're always selling. We're always selling ourselves, whether we mean to or not, but through our presentation or our voice, if we're trying to get something or give something, it's sales. And if you don't believe that, you're not going to close that sale one way or the other.
Well said. I love that. One of my favorite books, one of my chiropractors gave me is on believing, right? It was a simple book. It was like 50, 60 pages, but it was all about that I can attitude, right?
Yeah.
And that goes a long way. I think that's just the most basic foundation for success.
Yeah.
So moving on to more successes when it deals with flipping and analyzing markets like a pro. So what about the key features that help you choose a market? What factors do you look for? Population or housing inventory?
There's a couple of key items that I'm always looking for. And one of the things that, usually pushes other people away brings me in. And that's if people say that, hey, it's too tough to find a deal here. It's a difficult market. It's way too competitive, or you're too late. Like all that kind of talk just means that, oh, when I get a deal there, I'm going to be able to sell that thing so fast. It's going to be so easy. So that's a driver for me. So on that same thought process, I'm looking at markets that have very limited inventory, because when I get a house, I want to be able to sell it quick, whether I'm wholesaling or flipping. I like the analogy of the bread aisle. You go to the grocery store, and in the bread aisle, there's 60, 70 different loaves to choose from, right? So in a standard market with 4 to 6 months of inventory, there's a whole lot of loaves of bread out there. In the markets that I play in, people show up to the grocery store and it's like a hurricane just came through, and there's 2 loaves of bread on the shelves. They got to pick one of them, and mine is the one that's still intact and not busted up and decompressed, and like the other one looks like somebody's dropped an elbow onto it and dented it up.
Few slices missing.
Yeah, what loaf are they going to choose? They're going to choose mine all day long. That's what I want. I don't want them to say, I'll try that one instead.
That's smart. And I like that wisdom of, everybody's telling you to get away, and you're looking at that as, okay, that's a success for me. And I like that little niche, that's great. Now, how important is the inventory level in days on market? So you said a standard of 4 to 6 months. So is that an industry average?
Yeah, so you kind of break up markets into 3 categories. You have 0 to 3 months will put you into a hot market, or if it's 1 month or less, it's really a hyper market. That means things are just flying off the shelves. It's a seller's paradise, right? You're demanding your price and you're getting it. Once you get up into that 4 to 6 months, it's more of a stable market. It's a healthy market. Properties are coming on market and they're selling in the right amount of time. If you price things right, they'll sell. People want to buy there. But if you start getting into over 6 months of inventory, that really is considered an oversupply. It's going to be really hard to sell a house there unless you price it real competitively, or you've done a way above and beyond remodel to it that costs way too much. The HGTV style kind of remodels.
Yep.
And even at that, you're going to sit for a little while. Buyers aren't coming in there and saying, I have to buy a house now. They're saying, yeah, if the right one comes around, maybe we'll make an offer. We're not going to make an offer at list. We're going to make an offer where we want to make it.
Yep.
So, with the months of inventory, you get that play on the days on market. where you'll have a lesser days on market. Even in hot markets, you'll have a days on market average for the entire metro area in that 20 to 40 day mark, because people are still listing their houses way too high. Upper end houses take longer to sell typically.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get over, really, if you get over 90 or 100 days on market as an average, that's way too long for me. Really, over 60 on an average is something I'm going to be real cautious about. But if it's looking at over 100 days, I'm probably going to be staying away from that, or I'm going to be making ridiculously low offers
to account for your holding costs in the back end.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well said. Now in chapter 4, and you mentioned this in the beginning, one of the most important numbers. So how to accurately determine the ARV, or the after repair value. And you talk about it, so your no formula. So what are some good tips when just starting out?
You need to know what your closing costs are, both when you buy a house and when you sell a house, because you're going to have to pay them. So you got to take it out of the mix. Now, a lot of people don't know that those are negotiable costs. Most title companies will reduce their fees by up to 30% if you say you're an investor. Your realtor commissions can be negotiable depending on what you're really requesting from the realtor. You still need it to be a win-win scenario. But the way I look at it is I look at my after repair value, and that's based on comps. Comparable sales is what I'm talking about there. Not listings, not feelings, not dreams. It is sold properties of similar design, appeal, a real apple-to-apple comparison, and that have recently closed on the market, because that's going to tell you what the market's doing. So that's my starting basis, and then I minus out my purchase closing costs, my sales closing costs, my holding costs, what I'm estimating. If you're getting financing for the property, minus out your financing, and then minus out your repairs and your desired profit, and that's how you end up with what you can offer for the property.
Well said.
Now, if that number comes out to $237,218 or something like that, don't write the offer with that exact number. Please don't do that. You look like a robot. The sellers, the realtors are going to say, that's garbage. Just round it to a 500 or 1,000 mark.
Okay. Good tip. Now, in terms of, putting out deal flow and putting fishing lines out there, as you call it in the book. So what's the main source of deal flow for you?
Right now I'm running about 50% of my deals are actually coming from wholesalers. Okay. These are people that are out there getting contracts on properties, not actually buying them, but then they're selling me their interest on the property or in the contract, and then I buy it from them. And one of the key facts of that is I never count anyone else's money. If the deal pencils out for me, I'm happy. So if I say I'm okay making a $25,000 profit on this deal, and then the numbers come over and I see the wholesalers making $100,000 just to move the contract, I don't know everything that he did to get that deal, how much he spent on marketing or time frame, or if he's paying off some other liens or paying for the seller to move, all kinds of things. But what I'm going to tell him is, hey, man, congrats, that's an awesome fee. Put it towards your marketing and get me some more deals. So yeah, I buy a lot from wholesalers right now. I've actually trained a bunch here locally in Las Vegas where I'm at. I think last year I had, it was 9 different people who got their first wholesale deal that I helped them through. And that's always a fun feeling. And sending some of those people making $20,000 a pop.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I love how you look at that. That's that abundance mindset, right? If it pencils out for me, you don't know what's going through on the other side. That's well said. That's wisdom. I think it comes with experience.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of, I love your term in the book, the dirty dozen keyword search. So, can you explain, some of the keywords that you like to use?
Yeah. So another way we get properties is out of the MLS, the multiple listing service, the thing that the realtors use. And most of those systems, you can put in keyword searches, where if somebody has put in the comments of their listing that house is damaged, needs repairs, it's a fixer-upper, you can have an auto search set up so that when that listing goes out there, you can have it automatically sent to your email. So words like damaged, fixer upper, handyman, it's some of them are going to have some regional ones. BOM in different markets can mean different things. Some will just mean that it's back on market. Other areas of the country, it might mean bottom of market, meaning, hey, this is the bottom of the market. It's the lowest price listing out there. It's a deal because of that. I don't use words like fire or mold for my Dirty Dozen, because you're going to get every listing with a fireplace, and a lot of the MLSs out there now have mold waivers, or like if it's a hurricane area, they might say no water damage or mold damage. And it's, if you put a mold or fire in those, your inbox is just going to be full of stuff that you don't want to spend.
Yep, I love that. That's the other two that you kind of leave out. Smart. So let's say we, put the fishing lines out in terms of the keyword search and finding deals, and, something has nibbled and we've ironed out our ARV. So what type of offer do you like to make when it comes to due diligence, timeframe, and contingencies?
Yeah. Since I play in pretty hot markets, I'm usually going to do a pretty low due diligence timeframe. Now I'm making these offers sight unseen, so I'm not doing 0 days due diligence. I'm typically doing 2 days due diligence. It's enough time for me to get one of my team members out to the property, get a full set of photos, and really dig into the numbers and make sure that it is a deal. My closing timeframes, depending on the property, I might be 7 to 10 days for my closing. And then, I like to put down a hefty EMD. If you're putting $100 down for an EMD, it's not really going to look good. So we typically, even on like $150,000 house, I'm putting down 5,000 EMD. It seems to be a pretty good number for us. Makes the sellers know that we're real. Even if they're only asking for $1,000 or $1,500, I still give the $5,000. Now, one of the things about doing your due diligence quickly is if you get out there the next day and you find out, hey, it's not a deal, I don't put my EMD in, right? I'll go back to them and say, hey, you know what? After further review, looking at the property, we would still like to buy it, but we can't be at X. We have to be at Y for price. Yeah,
Interesting.
So negotiating. Yeah. But we've already got our foot in the door.
Well said. Now, do you wait a day to send that check in?
So typically if we're on the fence about the deal, we haven't spent enough research on it right off the bat, we'll typically get it in within 48 hours. Now you have to understand that I'm not an attorney or a CPA or any of that kind of stuff. I guess I should say that too, right? Most contracts, standard realtor contracts, are going to have in there a provision of when the EMD is supposed to be delivered. Most areas, it's 2 days or 48 hours that you have to put it in there. But the thing about that is, on most contracts, that is a curable item, meaning if you don't put your EMD in, and the seller says, oh, I'm canceling, I'm going to take this other offer because you didn't put your EMD in, you still have the right to cure that deficiency in the contract and say, you know what, I really do want this one, let me get the EMD over there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to know. Now, in terms of, contingency, are you putting a finance if you're using some type of cash, even just to get,
No, we'll do as is, cash deal, no appraisal or loan contingencies. Because our offers are going to be low enough where it's not going to matter. And even when we buy with hard money loans, they're not getting appraisals that are going to be relevant to those terms, meaning that they're appraising it on a future value if they even do an appraisal.
Of course. And that's where I think your strong suit comes in. If you have that expertise in looking at those comps and determining that ARV, you should know So there's no real reason to get an appraisal if you don't
Right.
have that expertise. So
Right. Now, for individuals that are out there, I tell you, go get 3 opinions of value and get unbiased opinions of value. The realtor who's writing that offer for you, they're going to get a commission if that house closes. They are biased. Go talk to a couple other realtors or another flipper or a local mentor or something like that and say, hey, what do you think of this deal? And then, you get that, and if somebody's way off from you, don't try to convince them that your $400,000 ARV is better than their $350,000. Ask why they thought it was $350,000.
I love that. And you said that in the book, especially with the hard money lender, ask them why. And I think that's the best question you can ask. Then you fine tune, you get experiences and you won't get caught. And I think that's what your book does a great job of, is stepping away from those landmines that can derail your project very fast.
Yeah.
And now let's move on to the other half of the puzzle. So this is funding the deal. So what do you recommend for a first-time flipper in financing, and what's the best way to set it up?
Well, it really depends on where they're at financially. I mean, some people have no money. Some people have a ton of money. I was just talking with a guy yesterday that he's got almost $1 million available to him. And he's like, well, I was told that you should never use your own money. I'm like, why not? You've got that money. It's not doing anything. You might as well put it to work. Because if you use somebody else's money, OPM, other people's money, I like the phrase OPE, other people's everything, right? You try to get whatever you can and save your time and energies. But hard money is great. The rates have really come down over the last 5 years, really nationwide, where a lot of people were paying crazy 15% interest, 5 points. You're seeing those markets down in the 10 and 12% interest and maybe 2 to 3 points for even new beginners. Private investors are always great, easier to deal with. Partnering up with somebody that's got the money but not the time. You might have the time and the knowledge. And hey, Mr. Doctor, I know you're busy with your practice, doing work, and you understand that real estate is a great way to make money. How about this? You've worked really hard for your money. Let's get your money working hard for you, and we'll split the profits 50-50. Or you give them the 10 and 12% interest and a couple points to fund the deal for you. I like to keep as much money local as possible. So if people are within my realm, my sphere of influence, I'd rather give them the money than some big old hedge fund in New York.
Yeah.
I like that I'm able to change people's lives that way too.
Of course. And it's a win-win situation. It's not like you're trying to make money off them and sell them something like a coaching or product. They're getting their money working for them, creating your spread off your flips and rentals, and it's win-win-win. So
strong passive income for them, and it's somebody offers you 8 and 10% interest, and your money's just sitting in the bank account getting, if you're lucky, 0.25%. It's kind of a no-brainer for me.
It's amazing, and I think that's the best approach I use. Is it's not only that your money, you're getting a better return. It's secured by an asset in first position at a safe ARV. If anything ever were to happen, and you put insurance on it, that's a solid investment.
Property's insured, they're in first position, note and deed of trust recorded, just like as if they were Bank of America or Wells Fargo. The great thing about being in hot markets is those properties turn over fast. So although it's not liquid as if their money's in a bank account, if they need that money in 6 months, it's going to come available again. I think our average last year for our properties was 132 days that we owned it, from the time we bought it to the time we sold it. So that's rehab, marketing, and closing all tied into there.
That's amazing. You're cruising.
Yeah.
I think my first one was like 12 months and another couple weeks after that and extension points, but
Yeah, it's the way it goes. And,
yeah.
sharing those kind of stories is great too. And that's why I did that in the book about my first one. I did everything wrong. And
Mhm.
people are going to do things wrong, but you have to learn from them, right?
Yes.
And do what you can to mitigate the mistakes, obviously.
Yep.
um, but things happen. We have deals that go long, whether it was something that was planned or not planned. But the more you do things correctly from the start, you can really mitigate those things. Going back to the ARV, deciding on, your ARV is based on fact, not dreams and a realtor's feeling. Or, I sold one here like 4 years ago, and it went so fast. People love this neighborhood. This one's going to go fast. Don't worry about it. Well, that's not proof to me. I'm in the business of making money on real estate I buy, not maybe making it or hopefully making it. I know when I buy a house, I'm making money on it.
That was one of my favorite quotes in the book too. I'm not in for making, and just let it down. It was solid. I loved it. Now, so we found the deal, we funded the deal. So now starts the fun of finding the quality contractor with fair pricing. So what are some of your best tips, Luke?
And before you even close on that house, you should have already gotten the contractors, right? You should have already known what the rehab numbers are going to be, or pretty damn close to what they should be, right? The contractors are out there, and sometimes it takes some work, right? I think in the book I say, 10 to 3, 10 contractors to get 3 quotes. That's kind of the way it works. Actually, I was talking with one of my new students, and he's like, he's newer to the business, and he's like, yeah, I heard you say it, but I was like, it's not going to be like that for me. I'm really going to do my due diligence and follow up with these guys. And he's like, man, you were right.
Yep.
It's tough, and once you come to terms with that, then you realize that, okay, I know I'm not going to get a number from these guys, even though some of these, I'm going to get contractors come out to the house. They're going to spend 2 hours there measuring everything, spending time. We're going to have 5 phone calls about materials, and then they never give you a number, like what they'll charge you. I don't care if it's astronomical, $80,000 on a $30,000 job. At least give me the number. Let's finish that conversation. But they just don't do it. That's the way it works.
So funny.
Yeah, but referrals are great.
Mm.
When you're looking at your comps to determine your ARV, you're probably looking at remodeled houses. Have your realtor reach out to them, or you reach out to that listing agent who sold that house. Give them a compliment. Say, wow, that house looked great. I'm thinking about remodeling my house just down the road. Could you get me that contractor's name and information? I'm going to remodel it and I'm going to sell it. And the realtor is going to, like, when you say you're going to sell it, that realtor, even though you might not ever even plan on using them, they're going to think, oh, this is a potential listing for me after this. So let me get this person that contractor's information and pass the word, right? You're dangling carrots.
That's an amazing tip. That's one to write down right away. All right. So we've gone through, completed our flip. Hopefully we got the contractors in there. Everything went without a hiccup. So what are some best tips on listing a house for a sale?
List it when it's done. Don't get too eager and say, I got to get it on the market this weekend. Even though the guys are still there cleaning up, I haven't done a final walk on it. The contractor said it's done or good enough. Don't list it until the property is 100% complete. It's going to help you sell it, because that opening weekend, especially in hot markets, are really going to be the key. You want to drive in offers. You have to price your house right. So before we list a house, we're taking a look at our value again. Because over these last 2 months, from when we said, yes, we're buying it, to now, the market's changed. Maybe it's slowed down and there's a whole bunch of inventory. Maybe all the inventory is gone and you can list it 25,000 higher. Just because you determine your ARV at the beginning doesn't mean that that's your list price at the end.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Now, are you looking in the past 90 days? Is that
I typically I'm looking at that. So sometimes I mean, for me, I'll look at data sets of 6 months
Okay.
typically, but that's for regular people
Yeah.
that don't have the experience of knowing how to cipher through all those various numbers. I mean,
Mm.
I love looking at data and analyzing it and looking at the trends and everything.
Yeah.
But for safety, really take a look at the last 90 days of sales. And then at that point, when you're listing it, you're also taking a look at what your competition is. So what's listed? If everything else is listed from 280 to 300, you probably don't want to list at 340.
Mm.
Right? It's like, what house is going to sell first? Well, the lower priced ones.
Yeah. Well said. Now, have you ever, let's talk about best flips and worst flips. So what's the best deal you've done?
It's always funny. I get these conversations. I do interviews and things like this, or just talking to people in general, and I get that question. And best flip I've ever done. For some people, it's, well, what's the highest profit you've made?
Yeah.
Well, if that profit took a ton of work and had a whole bunch of headaches, to me, that's not the best flip. I like the ones where the deal comes over, I say, yeah, we'll take it. I hand it over to my team and it goes through the process. I've never walked the house. We close on it. And then the numbers all pencil out to what we said it was going to. And we made 40 grand in like 3 or 4 months on it. And I've never walked the house. I've maybe had 3-4 conversations about the house. But for me, those are the best flips now.
Yeah.
When I have to get involved with things, it usually means that it's more complex, and which I don't mind. But those are no longer the best flips. Now, the worst flips are the ones where everything goes wrong, and that happens. We had one, which was the rehab went an extra 2 months on it, and just to get to what we thought was our end point. Contractor took long. We gave him a couple. I think we gave him 4 jobs. Normally he was like a 2-job contractor, and he said he got new guys on, and it just stretched him to the limits and caused problems across all 4 properties. But this one was a bit more of a custom house where we had to do extra things, different cabinets, different flooring than our normal standards are. Then we had the air conditioners go out, both of them at different times. While the house was listed, we had a leak in the pool. Now in Vegas, right, air conditioners pretty important. Pools are also important. There was a leak in the pool that we had to dig all the way down and under the pool. So while the house was listed, we had to take it off market 4 different times, fixing AC, fixing the pool. We had a room that all of a sudden the rafters started sinking. So we monitor our houses weekly, and we took a look at these pictures, and we're like, wait a second, is that ceiling sloped now? So sometimes things just happen. We didn't even move any walls or anything. All of a sudden, it just there was just sinking in that ceiling to the tune of about 3 and 4 inches in areas. Like the air vents were, like corners were popped, and we're like, oh, that doesn't look right. So we had to redo the whole ceiling. So each one of those mistakes, not necessarily mistakes, but issues that arise, are $2,000 to $5,000 a pop. Not to mention the extended time. So this deal that we should have made $50,000 on, we ended up losing $3,000.
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Yeah, but for me, it's I'm buying houses to make money, so
yes,
those are the ones I remember the most.
Yeah, especially the pool.
Few and far between, but
yeah, digging under. What did that look like? I mean, that sounds like a project in and of itself.
Yeah, it was a big old concrete pool that had issues. They couldn't solve it from the top. They had to go down, replaced all the piping. It was a process.
Yeah. Jeez. Well, call those life lessons, right?
Yep.
Yep. So I love the end of the book and how you spoke about networking and social media. And what did you learn from that reflective process of using your social media to help build your business?
Well, I wasn't the guy that was out there, right? I didn't get on social media until 2012, 2013.
Mm.
And I was always the guy that sat in the back of the room and said, if people want to talk to me, they'll come talk to me. But they didn't even know I was there. So you have to let people know you're there. And I started doing that. And then people started coming to me and asking questions and seeing that, oh, you are actually doing this business and you're willing to share information. And that actually was part of how the book started as well. I was getting these same questions over and over and over. And I wrote some white pages, 5-10 page documents. And then I was kind of put them together and like, oh, I'm almost out of book. Let me finish it out. The process took longer and more than I thought it was going to, but I'm happy with the result. But the networking aspect of the business is huge. Going out to meetups and letting people know what you're doing, practicing talking to people and sharing your real estate story with them so that when you do have that conversation with the ones that really matter, and not to say that those ones won't matter, it just helps. The more you surround yourself with what you want and what you do, the further along you'll take yourself on your path to success.
That's amazing. I love that introspective approach, and using it and tools to our advantage. And I really love this tip because I think we all struggle with this is you set timers on it, right? I have this one task. I've got 10 minutes to do it and then I'm off.
Yeah. I was showing some of my staff the other day to, making images to put on social media. It shouldn't take 30 minutes to create one image. We like to put, if one of our houses sells, we'll put the image up and then we'll put a big old sold banner or record setting price or things like that, or investor just made money or something, whatever. But that can be done in 2 minutes. You just show them how. Otherwise, people will spend time and energy and like, oh, it's got to be perfect. And well, no, your time is your most valuable asset. If you're not managing your time right, and I say, get a little egg timer, whatever it takes. So you got that click, 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 telling you, hey, you got other stuff to do. Get this one done and move on.
That's amazing. No, that's a great tip. I love how you wrapped it up with the book, and it's amazing because, like I said, your book does a wonderful job of putting that into coherent, easy to understand knowledge. So I think it's such a great book if someone's really looking to understand, and you can even apply that to the rentals, right? You're doing the same process and trying to buy right and trying to manage the contractors,
how to find them and how to run the numbers and everything, financing of them. It really all starts with that. And then you can take it into wholesaling, to rentals, to being a private investor and knowing how to protect yourself, right?
Exactly.
It's each one of those aspects of it helps whatever realm of real estate you want to be in.
Mm-hmm. And I love this approach that you started as that appraiser, right? I think that's the rock solid foundation of knowing that number. And then just like you said, from there, we just subtract X, Y, and Z, boom, our offer.
Yeah. Nope. And it really comes down to that basic concept of apples to apples. When your house is done and remodeled, is it going to look like that one that is $500,000, or is it going to look like the one that's $350,000? If there's no way in hell it's going to look like that $500,000 one, that shouldn't be your ARV.
I love it. It's so great. Well, Luke, thank you so much for being on the show today. Really appreciate your time. And I know listeners gained some valuable knowledge. Can you tell us the best place to find out more about you and where to pick up a copy of your book?
Yeah, Scott. Well, and thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. Best place to find me is on Facebook. I'm on there every day. The book is The Flipping Blueprint. You can find it on Amazon, iBooks, Barnes & Noble, pretty much anywhere. And the best way to really interact with me is the Flipping Blueprint group page on Facebook. Now, I do have 2 entry questions for you to get in there. Super easy questions, and I just try to keep the spammers out because I want it to be a healthy, safe community where you're not just inundated with crazy offers on awesome fake Rolex watches and things like that. But I want, a lot of times people reach out to me privately, and I'll tell them, post the question in the group page, because if you have that question, other people have it too, and let's help everyone out. That's the best way to find me. And if you guys do get the book, I'd love the reviews. It helps other people find it too, and that's really the goal, is to get that book out to as many people as possible, so that everyone can invest safely and get to where they really want to go on their journeys.
Yeah, and it's just not me endorsing it. You have over 100 5-star reviews in the book, so it's working. And I'll link the show notes with all those copies in the Facebook group as well. So
great,
appreciate that. Thanks, Luke. All right,
yeah.
You have yourself a good day.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks for having me.
And that concludes our book club interview with author Luke Weber, who wrote The Flipping Blueprint, which is a complete plan for flipping houses and creating a real estate investing business. It's a wonderful book. It's a blueprint to flipping, everything from finding the deals to dealing with contractors and to negotiating contracts. It's all covered in this book and much more. I highly recommend it. It's one of the best flipping books I've read to date. I absolutely love the knowledge that he has in there. It's very practical, down to earth, easy to read. Highly recommend it. Make sure you check out the show notes, because I'm going to link that Facebook group Luke was talking about and where you can pick up a copy. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Follow us on iTunes so you can stay up to date to the authors we're interviewing and the lessons we are learning. That's it for today. My name is Scott Hollister, your host. We'll see you next time.